Hello, welcome. My name is Desiree Shaw. I'm a psychotherapist and I vlog and I podcast about men's mental health with a keen interest, relationships and all things to do with mental health and emotional well-being. I'm a psychotherapist and I vlog and I podcast. I just said that. I practice at the Priory and privately, and I'm on a mission to make therapy accessible and change the world, one thought at a time. This segment's about social exclusion amongst peers, amongst groups, and also touching on to the differences of people and the reasons why we do what we do. Okay, so let's look at social exclusion on the actual term of thinking about society. We exclude people for specific reasons. So, breaking the law, you get excluded and sent to jail. You get taken away from society, extradited and punished. And we know being excluded is a punishment. Yeah? So just to clarify that, we fully accept that when you're excluded from society, from engaging in social activities with people walking around being free, sitting in a park, you are being stripped of actually, your human right because of you're being punished. And we accept that. We do that with people that are bad people. Yet, we socially exclude minority groups. I don't want to keep saying ethnic minority groups, but just so we're clear, we exclude minority groups. We exclude based on religion. We exclude based on sex. We exclude on education. We exclude on lots of different things. And we do it subtly, because the exclusion behaviour in the UK, as I'm British, is very subtle and a little bit underhand and not so easy to see, but very obvious, very plain and very in your face. But we do this, we learn this from childhood basically, and we do this to make a point for whatever reason. Now, once we exclude because we know we're punishing someone, we learn to do this in school, don't we? So the teacher says, you've been bad, go and sit in the naughty corner, bad child, or you're going to have a detention. You are not playing with the other children. That's your punishment, going to take you away. So we recognise it as punishment. Then we do it in pair groups. We do it in our own little social pockets. So we do it in pairs. We do it in our pair groups. We do it in our families. We do it in our cultural meets, like churches, synagogues, temples, what have you. Okay, we do it in the community centre. We do it based on many different factors. Okay, and often it's because somebody's being taught a lesson or being excluded because of some specific reason. It's not always to be taught a lesson. Sometimes it's because the person who is either mainly in charge excludes another person for fear of something. There's a threat, there's a perceived threat. Just the same way we exclude criminals, because the perceived threat is they're going to do harm. And we exclude children who've been harmful or in any way dangerous because they might cause harm. But then we start to get a little bit niche with our exclusions, yeah? We exclude people based on how they look. They might not fit in with the group that we are in. We don't like their behaviour. It doesn't follow the code of conduct of the sorority or the fraternity or the gentleman's club or the ladies group. We exclude for these reasons. Now, why am I talking about this? Because I've been talking about racism in the workplace and what it looks like and how it affects as a part of exclusion. We have social exclusion in the workplace from events, from situations of friendship groups, peer groups, all sorts of things going on. And we do this to demonstrate power sometimes, most times, all times. We do it to demonstrate power. It's a very violent way of organising your social abilities with other people because it's very passive-aggressive, right? So social exclusion is something we learn from a child. We learn how to. You ever seen that child in a playground that was really, really good at causing dynamics and groups and causing problems and not really gelling with anyone else, but being able to always be at the top somehow. They were really good at that. And then you always had that child that was always excluded and never really got their needs met and was always left on the outside. That was me. I was socially excluded quite a lot, actually, and it became a natural process. I recognised partly the reason why I do what I do, but being socially excluded in different ways, what is a long-term effect that it can have on a person? So looking at it from my perspective and having gone through therapy, and as a therapist still having therapy because you're supposed to, I recognise that what happens when you're socially excluded as a person, you can be triggered to think that there's something wrong with you, that you're not worthy and that you're not good enough. And when we're socially excluded from groups that we think we should be affiliated with, it can have a very disastrous effect and can trigger depression, and it can trigger anxiety. And sometimes we think, why does a social group want to cause a person so much harm? If we knew just how painful it was, would we still socially exclude? Interesting question. Because it is a very painful thing to be on the receiving end of. If we knew how dangerous it was to another person's mental and emotional psyche, would we continue to do it? Or would we be justified because what we wanted was to cause harm? Now, from my experience, I have noticed that peer groups within groups, tend to socially exclude because they do want to cause harm. They do want somebody to feel lesser than, not worthy, and they actually want to see somebody crumble, which is a very violent thought process, very passive aggressive. And when we want to hurt another person, it's all because of how we're actually hurting ourselves.
It's called hurt people.
40 odd years
hurt
to
people.
recognise this. It's a process we do when we want to cause harm because we're feeling the pain ourselves. So let's look at it from the point of view of the person doing the exclusion. Somebody comes to your workplace and you're used to having a group of friends, and that person comes in might be a little bit more edgy, a bit more interesting. So that person who's normally at the centre wants to cause some kind of discord for that person because they don't want that person taking over because they feel threatened. And their threat to themselves that they're feeling at that moment, they want the other person to feel that because they want the other person to know, do not step on my toes. So they might spread rumours or not be very friendly or ignore them or make fun of them, causing the other group to follow suit. Because we are a bunch of followers, aren't we? When we do that, we're trying to gain power. And we don't like the idea of anybody else gaining power when we're in those positions. A lot of the time it's about gaining power. And sometimes we can actually enjoy the pain we cause another person. That's called bullying. But we can enjoy the pain we cause, and so we socially exclude because we feel powerful when we do that. And that's a bit what society does when we lock somebody up who's done something really heinously horrible. They've committed a crime, and we think, you know what, you're going to jail, and you deserve to go to jail because you're a really bad person. And there you go, happy now. Society's happy, you're paying the price. Well, when you socially exclude, that is also what you're doing. You're enjoying the pain of somebody else's discomfort. And it's a very mentally, emotionally violent thing to do to yourself, because what you're actually doing is reaffirming all your emotional and mental disturbances. So your threat for somebody like that increases. So when you meet another person like that, you'll feel threatened again, and you won't always win. So you might win for a short time, but you won't always win. So the person who has been the excluder and been in charge, you will definitely run out of course at some point, and that is just life. Why? Because you won't always win. Sometimes you'll lose, and sometimes you'll pick on somebody that you won't really be bargaining for. But sometimes you'll pick on somebody and you'll cause them more harm than you intended. The question is, do you want to cause harm when you socially exclude? The next time somebody new walks into your life or into your workplace or into your home, do you want them to feel upset? Do you want to hurt them? I'm not going to sing. I want to. Do you really want to hurt them? Do you really want to make them cry? Right, that's it. So I won't do anymore. But that is the thought process of this segment, is to recognize when you are socially excluding. Notice what comes up for you. So notice if you're feeling threatened, what are you threatened by? Do you think that person is better looking than you? Do you think that person has better talents than you? What are you actually threatened by? Is it a real threat or is it a perceived threat? Often we confuse the real with the perceived, and actually it's perceived and it's not real at all. And we're living in our heads. We get scared about other people because we think it means something to where we stand, and then we cause mental damage and harm to people who often don't deserve it. So before you socially exclude, recognise, what are you doing and why? Why are you doing it? What are you doing? Why? Ask yourself that question. Are you actually in imminent danger? Is this person actually going to take something from you? And what are they going to take from you? What is it that is so bad that you don't want them to have? Anyway, this is the end of Do You Socially Exclude? My name is Desiree Shaw. I'm a psychotherapist. I vlog and I podcast about mental health. Check out my Monday Torture Superhero. I make that with Magno Media, Super Andrew Magno. And Friday, which is Relationship SOS. I make that with Magno as well. And during the week, when I do other segments about random mental health topics, thought-provoking topics, and topics to support you in any such way, and my podcast, which are on a Monday and a Friday. That's a lot of stuff, isn't it? So make sure you subscribe to this channel, and like it and share it and talk about it, and explore the concepts. Bye for now.
Don't become who hurts you. Listen, I see so many people every single day, whether it be in my messages, DMs, looking at how people engage on social media, and just what you hear from so many different individuals is a lot of bitterness, pain, and disappointment due to past experiences, due to current experiences. And now you've internalized those bad experiences, you've internalized that pain, you've internalized what that last person did to you, and now you don't realize you are becoming the embodiment of that negative energy. You are now projecting negative energy into the world. You are now putting walls up, not walls that you think are actually helping you. They're actually hurting you more than helping you. And you're walking around with this negative energy because you have not healed.
All right, we're ready to learn. What are the main reasons women betray each other? Why?
Self-hatred.
Self-hatred.
Self-hatred. I see in you what I refuse to see in me. And as long as I can point it out to you, I don't have to look at me. So as a result of self-hatred, we don't honor our relationships. The other thing is, because we seek external validation, we're